Watch me ruin your favorite chair. You're not gonna want to sit in this one again.
How did this show get away with half of the stuff it did? Nickelodeon's catalog is big, large, mostly garbage, but among all of the things Nickelodeon has produced over the years, there are very few that still get talked about to this day, or hell, got talked about while they were still airing. There have been a lot of NickToons that felt like they just kinda came and went, even if in actuality they stayed around for a good few years and were just neglected in favor of the same 10-year tune of Spingebill, Bad Fandom Show, and Dan Schneider's cultural impact. Yes indeed, there are a lot of shows on Nickelodeon that I almost exclusively watched for about an hour before school as a kid that I've had in the back of my mind for years, and it's safe to say that most people have either forgotten about them or don't talk about them whatsoever. A lot of these shows are forgotten for many reasons, the most prevalent one being... Oh, and also... But I found there's a couple of gems underneath all of the muck, and with one of the bad shows I wanted to talk about for this video recently seeing a surge in popularity through out-of-context clips on social media, I figured now would be a good time to take a look at the NickToons that time forgot. I'm sure that you might recognize some of these as they're probably buried deep within your brain somewhere behind all of the less important stuff you focus on, so if you have any core memories that get unlocked by this video, feel free to share them in the comments. But without further ado, let's just get the one most people are here for out of the way.
Oh look, I'm going to poop where I sit.
Again, how did they get away with... Okay, so it's worth mentioning that Rocket Monkeys is only technically a Nicktoon. It was originally created for and aired on Teletoon, but Nickelodeon acquired the broadcasting rights around the same time, before immediately sending it to die on Nicktoons due to the show's low ratings, though that doesn't exactly make Rocket Monkeys particularly special. So while this is a technicality, I'm willing to bet most people associate this show with Nickelodeon, and personally I watched the show on Nicktoons when I was a kid, so I think it counts. Argue with a wall. Anyway, so Rocket Monkeys.
I made a boom boom on the floor.
This is a sketch show, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Rocket Monkeys is just a sketch show. There is not a single normal moment in this whole show. I don't mean to be a poo prude, but I don't mean to be too pearl-clutchy, but even by the standards of the average kids show with toilet humor, Rocket Monkeys gets to a point where it is legitimately kinda disgusting. I know for a fact some ABDL motherfucker just blew the fattest load over their monitor. If you couldn't tell, this show has gone kinda viral on social media recently. Likely because people are unlocking core memories of briefly watching the show as a kid, then going back and realizing, wait, what the fuck, they did that? There's this one account on Twitter who is just posting clips from the show every day, so if you're wondering why a lot of my clips are fluctuating in quality, it's because I'm stealing them from this guy. I refuse to have multiple full episodes of Rocket Monkeys on my hard drive. The actual premise of this thing, beyond being a poop show, is that these two space monkeys with the collective IQ of a blade of grass are sent up into space to do stuff. Just stuff. Wikipedia calls them missions, I just call it dicking around. The premise is not important. What is important is that this is probably the personification of everything people dislike about Nickelodeon shows using toilet humor amplified to the furthest possible extreme. I know that it's cool for some people to go back and look at old cartoons that they watched as a kid and do some good old-fashioned revisionist history and acting like it's some underrated hidden gem, and I mean, good on you if you like these shows. I've got nothing against you personally. It's just that if you're saying that Rocket Monkeys is secretly good in a public space, I'm gonna hit you with a car. I really want to know how Rocket Monkeys got away with all of this. Like, it's actually disgusting, and I don't know of many kids shows that could compete with the amount of unbridled scat being put on my screen. What the hell even happens in Canada? With all of that being said, I don't actually hate Rocket Monkeys. It's not worthy of hate. If anything, I have a morbid curiosity towards it. I'm simply fascinated that something like this made it to air. There are 3 seasons of this show somehow, and it's safe to say not many people remember it. Well, I mean, now they do, but I think there's plenty of reasons why this show fell into obscurity. Robot and Monster, a show about robots and monsters coexisting in a world together where one is a Squidward and the other is a SpongeBob, and it's just as uninspired as you'd imagine. I actually have a lot of memories of watching Robot and Monster before school in 2014 to 2015, and I haven't heard hide nor hair of it since then. No one ever talks about it, and apparently there's only like 26 episodes, even though I could have sworn I watched more than that. And it's suddenly dawning on me that there's a real possibility that I have actually seen every episode of Robot and Monster, but just don't remember. I guess that still makes me the most qualified person to talk about about the show though, right? Like, I at least qualify for an expert position. Who cares if I get stuff wrong because I don't remember the exact details? You're not gonna watch this show anyway. Robot and Monster is very boring, honestly. Visually, it looks fine, or as fine as a CG animated series released in 2012 could look. The problem is that it's one of the most derivative cartoons I've seen in a while. Pretty much everything it does, from its premise to its characters and their personalities, have been done before a million times and done way better on top of that. Like, again, Robot and Monster are just the 2012 newbies from the Squidward and SpongeBob factory. Their dynamic is exactly what you'd expect. Robot is grumpy, Monster is not. Robot is smart, Monster is not. And there's nothing else to them other than their, I don't know, their love of bacon. F it, bacon. The characters in this show love bacon so much they have their own version of Christmas called Baconmas. This is what I talk about for a living. Oh yeah, they also got this little stupid cube dog thing called Marf, and his whole thing is he just says Marf all the time. I don't know why you would create such a useless creature like this. You're a sick fuck. The show is also oddly mean-spirited and not very funny, like, at all. I don't know why I watched so much of this show as a kid. I guess during the times it would play on NickToons, there was just nothing else on any of the other channels. I was used to SpongeBob being on at 7 in the morning, not this piece of shit. It's no wonder no one ever talks about Robot and Monster, because it really doesn't make a good enough case for its own existence to be remembered by anyone. I'm glad that a handful of people realized it existed, because I would have been convinced I just dreamt the whole thing up.
It's only a matter of time before you and
Please shut up. Look everyone, it's the precise moment everyone realized Butch Hartman had fallen off and wouldn't ever climb back up. Bunsen is a Beast is largely forgotten about and not talked about much nowadays, but back in the day, the announcement of this show was actually kind of a big deal, given Butch wasn't widely recognized as the snake oil salesman he is today. A new cartoon from the creator of Odd Parents and Danny Phantom? Oh boy, everyone said in unison, forgetting that both shows fell off a cliff a long time ago, and also conveniently forgetting the existence of Tough Puppy. Arguably the biggest cultural impact Bunsen had was that one animated short of all of Butch's characters crossing over and interacting with each other to promote the new show. Despite how much smack I'm about to talk, I thought this was cute and a nice bit of fan service. This short also happens to be the best thing to come out of Bunsen's entire existence. I'm aware I'm definitely not the target audience for Bunsen is a Beast, but I shit you not, my little sister watched this show a grand total of 1 time while I was babysitting her, and this was the first time I had ever seen her grab the remote to turn the fucking TV off. Also, Odd Parents and Danny Phantom, at least the good parts, are still very enjoyable for kids and adults, so I don't know why Butch was aiming for a lower age demographic with Bunsen as a Beast, especially after hooking all of his old fans with the promo animation. I mean, come on, how many bridges is this man gonna sell people before he starts to feel bad? Bunsen is a Beast is a contender for the most annoying cartoon from the last 10 years. It's utter hell, or at the very least what I imagine the screams of the damned sound like. Every character's voice and actions are psychologically analyzed and tested to make sure they give the viewer a migraine. The show also looks horrid in general. Say what you will about Butch Hartman, the man can draw fairly well, or at least he used to, but I still don't know what happened here. Describing this as the end-shitification of Butch's art style doesn't really do it justice, and the animation is cheap flash animation, the same kind that the last season of Odd Parents started using for some reason. I fully believe that 2016 to 2017 is where Butch Hartman finally lost the plot. I legitimately have no earthly idea what Butch was thinking with this show specifically. Uncle Duck felt like it had more thought put into it than this. I would genuinely take a full series about Uncle Duck than watch Bunsen is a Beast ever again. Butch, get on it. Okay, so we're officially past the whining, bitching, and moaning part of this video. Let's talk about some shows that aren't bad for a change. Welcome to the Wane is a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine, and I've always kinda rooted for it given the bad hand it was dealt by people when it was first revealed. Frame 1, the show immediately got compared to Gravity Falls and called a Nickelodeon ripoff of Gravity Falls for practically no justified reason, other than it revolving around mysteries and having just a handful of similarities. I'll admit that having a little girl solving mysteries who owns a grappling hook is enough to raise a couple of eyebrows, but it's still far from plagiarism, and I always found this incredibly unfair. Unfortunately, this meant the show never really got a chance to shine, and this, coupled with the fact that Nickelodeon once again greenlit a project, only to decide they didn't actually want it, meant that the show's fate was sealed from the day episode 1 dropped. And on top of this, they never re-aired any of the episodes again, or at least that's what I'm told. At the very most, they barely re-aired new episodes, meaning if the average viewer missed an episode premiere, that episode is gone into the void and you'll never watch it again outside of piracy. This was just a couple of years before streaming really started to take off, stuff outside of Netflix. People were actually watching TV back then. So yeah, I've always appreciated this show for being a bit of an underdog. The show isn't anything too special, but it is a decent bit of fun. Centering around a hotel, the Wayne, that is full of eldritch horrors and all manners of weird creatures that only certain people can see, and solving the many mysteries brought about by this idea. It's a fantastic concept, and while the show's mystery solving isn't exactly enthralling, it's still a fun watch for the most part. If you're going into Welcome to the Wayne with any expectations or thoughts that contain the words Gravity and Falls, you are setting yourself up for disappointment and should stop doing that. It's nothing like Gravity Falls, and I think it's better off for it. The theme song is also a banger, just thought I'd mention that. I'd recommend giving the show a shot. I know I say this a lot, but it's not gonna blow anyone's mind. The Gravity Falls comparisons were maybe slightly warranted on a superficial level. Again, girls solving mysteries with grappling hook, but were ultimately super unfair because it's nothing like Gravity Falls at all. It's its own thing entirely, and I'd rather people judge the show on those merits rather than what cartoon YouTubers told them nearly 10 years ago. Warning! Warning! We have reached Kino. We have reached levels of Kino previously thought unimaginable by this fuck-ass company. Proceed with caution. I can't believe this is the first time I'm actually talking about Harvey Beaks in any capacity beyond a brief mention. I have been referencing and making jabs at how poorly this show was treated for years now. I bring it up whenever I can because the story behind this show's treatment, and specifically the treatment of CH Greenblatt, actually pissed me the f*** off. And as long as anyone remotely connected to that incident remains at Nickelodeon, I will forever stay seething. If I was forced to make a public apology for venting on my Facebook about my boss screwing over my project, I would be on the fucking news. But anyway, Harvey Beaks is one of my favorite Nickelodeon shows, and I do not say that lightly. Yeah, but you didn't expect that, right? I can experience joy sometimes. I loved this show when I was a kid, and I still love it now. To put it simply, Harvey Beaks is just a relaxing show. Not all the time, but most of the time it's very laid back and keeps its cool. And it's something I've always admired about it because it's kind of like the anti-Nicktoon. Even the more low-key Nicktoons aren't as restrained and quiet as Harvey Beaks is, and it helps the show stand out and carve its own identity. The creator, CH Greenblatt, is a legend, writer on the first 3 seasons of SpongeBob and the creator of Chowder. And while Harvey Beaks is nowhere near as funny as either of them, that talent still shows. It's a show bursting at the seams with charm and good-natured humor. It very rarely ventures into super wacky territory, and it adds to the cozy vibe the whole show has. What definitely helps this the most are the visuals. The actual animation and character designs are just kinda okay, but the backgrounds are really pretty. On top of this, the show is incredibly down to earth in a way not many Nicktoons are. 2 of my favorite episodes center around Fee making friends with Blister, an old man stuck in a retirement home who hasn't been outside in years, bonding with him on such a level that finally gets him to conquer his fears and go outside. And then a few episodes later they follow up on this by showing how Fee has to deal and cope with Blister passing away. Yeah, Blister just dies and they're very upfront about it. They don't pussyfoot around the topic at all. It ends up being a shockingly poignant and impactful episode, and one of the best and most mature ways I've seen a Nickelodeon show tackle a concept like death. That's not to say the rest of the show is on the same level as this episode, but you know, it pains me that Harvey Beaks never got the attention it deserved, because while it's ultimately a footnote in Nickelodeon's overall history, it was a massive breath of fresh air both at the time and today. There's no other Nickelodeon show quite like it. Well, those certainly were some forgotten Nicktoons, am I right? This video was made as a necessity because January ad revenue is kicking my ass. I still enjoyed looking back at it. No, I didn't actually. I just enjoyed these 2. It was still interesting looking back at these shows though, since most of them were just tucked away at the back of my mind for a while, and I was never quite convinced they were real. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is the part where I would usually shill Yakuza, but unfortunately I played the demo for Kiwami free, and it was a 2-pack of ass. This combined with all of the controversies, as well as all of the recent story leaks that I hope are just a result of the developers trolling data miners, have all fully convinced me to make a video. So yes, you guys will get a Yakuza video before my Infinite Wealth vid is done. Just don't expect it to be a positive one. It takes a lot to get the resident Yakuza glazer to actually say something negative about his favorite franchise, but they managed to pull it off somehow. Anyway, goodbye.
And you're choking up because you couldn't